Amber Heard pleaded guilty to these charges. It was a lesser charge, really, of falsifying some paperwork back in 2016 related to these dogs, Pistol and Boo, being brought into the country on a private jet. And really, it all comes down to the fact that the dogs didn't have the proper paperwork to enter the country. They weren't declared properly once the plane landed in Australia, and they weren't quarantined. Australia has incredibly strict biosecurity laws, and they don't want any invasive species coming into the country that could destroy any type of wildlife or any type of, greenery, flowers, things of that nature. Right now, there's a major issue going on with bees in Australia. So they take these things very, very seriously. And so these dogs, the Australian officials at the time said these dogs either have to be euthanized here in Australia or they're out of here. So Johnny Depp flew them back to LA from Australia on a private jet. So we had heard some rumblings about the FBI possibly being involved in this perjury investigation related to statements that Amber Heard made in that court back in 2016. And the reason this investigation was actually launched back in 2020 was because there were statements made by staff members of Johnny Depp's and Amber Heard's at the time during the 2020 trial where they said, Kevin Murphy, the estate manager, says to the judge in the UK case, she pressured me to give a false statement, and then she wanted me to go to her former assistant, Kate James, who's a native Australian, and then ask her to basically make false statements to get her out of this mess. So she ended up pleading guilty to those lesser charges. Well, after all this testimony comes out in the UK trial, the Australian authorities launched this perjury investigation. And apparently this has been going on for a while, that they requested the assistance of the FBI in this investigation because a lot of the witnesses to this live here in the U.S. So the Australian authorities needed that assistance. Now, this has been going on apparently for quite some time, that the FBI and DOJ have been kind of involved in this. I saw some stuff on the internet about it, and so I did some kind of digging around and found out that it is indeed true that the FBI is assisting, although they won't comment. As you know, Bob, federal officials rarely ever say anything about an active investigation or about an investigation upon which they've been asked to assist.
Yeah, and Anjanette, I also know the FBI is very selective in the cases that it works with foreign countries. So it is kind of unusual. This would be the kind of case. Do you suspect that's because this has received a huge public outcry there about violation of their laws? And secondly, what exactly is the perjury that separates it from the other case where she pled guilty?
Well, the perjury has to do with the allegation, and at this point it's just an allegation, that she made false statements in court when pleading guilty to that lesser charge. On the other part of your question about the FBI being involved, I spoke with a former FBI agent over the weekend, and he literally said to me, look, we have offices around the world. We have offices in Australia. We have offices in many different countries. And when we are asked to assist with something, we will do it. It's a way to keep, kind of one foot in the law enforcement realm and one foot in the diplomatic realm. So we often work together with people and with, I should say, other governments on investigations like this. And a lot of people think, I saw some Amber Heard fans, they were very upset that I posted this, and they said, this is old, this is defunct, it's not real. It is real. It is very real. There's a hearing where this was discussed, a Senate hearing last October, where one of the senators was demanding answers, and he didn't understand why charges had not yet been filed. And the officials were trying to be very tight-lipped about it, and they said that they were working with the Australian Federal Police and their foreign partners on this investigation. And they basically had to get in line behind all of the other matters that these foreign partners had on their plates and then wait for them to work it on their end. And they said they are not intending to let this go. And on top of that, I had already contacted and been in contact to just, this is what we do as news people. We check in, anything new, anything going on. Last Thursday, a government agency investigating this told me it's still ongoing. And when I asked about the FBI involvement, they said they couldn't comment because it's ongoing, but they didn't deny it either.
Yeah, Anjanette, I think when you say it's actually been debated in the Senate in Australia, from what I understand that there's a lot of controversy with this. Is this I mean, in the United States, in the federal government, perjury is a very, very serious offense, false swearing, things of that nature. How serious a charge is she looking at?
Well, if she were to be charged in Australia with perjury, I've seen that it could carry prison time, but we don't know, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves there. She hasn't even been charged yet, and we don't know if she will be charged. But the Australians during that hearing said they are not letting this go, and they do not intend to let it go. And the senator who was questioning the kind of environmental officials about this basically said, during the questioning, this is cut and dry. Why hasn't this been taken care of yet? And you could tell they were dancing around this. They didn't want to say too much. They kept saying that it was an open investigation. They were not going to let this go. They take biosecurity threats incredibly seriously. This is not something they take lightly. It's very serious to them. And the one gentleman basically said, the publicity that has come from this is showing the world how seriously we take these matters.